New Buddhaware Dhamma Talks. Geoff Hunt presents a talk on some aspect of the Buddha's teaching.
Everyone, hope you're enjoying the sunshine that we're getting at the moment. We need some sunshine when we worry a lot, and that's what we're going to talk about, worrying. Sunshine does help, but it's not actually a panacea for worry. The sun is on the outside, so it seems, but the worry is on the inside. Worry, you might think, well, isn't that a topic for one of the psychologies or one of the therapies, psychotherapy or something of that kind, counseling? Well, it is, but it has a context for the Buddha. Let me give you the Buddha in one simple little cameo. It'll make sense of everything and why you have to locate it in its context. Put it this way. We are dissatisfied. We know we're dissatisfied. Otherwise, why do we keep running around, getting more stuff, running around the world, still feeling unhappy, making things even more complicated than they were? So we are dissatisfied. If we weren't dissatisfied, well, that'd be cool. Oh, cool, wouldn't it? Okay, we wouldn't be here. So we are dissatisfied in lots of little ways. Secondly, given that we are dissatisfied, the aim is to be peaceful. So dissatisfaction at one end, peace at the other. Peace of mind brings so many other good things. We have talked about before, such as compassion. So dissatisfied at one end, peace at the other. Now what's in between? What's in between is a series of things that one can do, a certain understanding of how one is to do them in order to move from the dissatisfaction to the peace. So there are three components. That's all there is to the Buddha. I myself have made it sometimes look too complicated. And if you look at the Tipitaka, it does look horrendously complicated when you see a row of books about 6 feet long. That's the way things go when they turn into religion. Okay, so we've got dissatisfaction at one end, we've got peace at the other. How do we get from one to the other? That's what nearly all the Buddha's teaching is about. If you see that, you see quite a lot, because you realize that the Buddha's teaching is a set of instructions. It's a set of instructions. What shall I do to move from the dissatisfaction to the peace? Now, I'm going to use an old-fashioned word for this because it's important to see that that path from dissatisfaction to peace is not about doing something as about not doing something. So the old-fashioned word is purification. And this word is actually used in Buddha's teachings, to purify. So we're trying to throw out all the junk in our heads, all the misconceptions, the disappointments, the hurt, the expectations, the loss, etc. It's like a jungle. And we've got a machete, and the machete is the Buddha's teaching. So what we have to do to get from the dissatisfaction to the peace is to get rid of the junk. We don't have to add anything extra. That's already part of a problem. It's too complicated. We're trying to find positive things we can do. Go on a cruise, go on another holiday, or drink a second bottle of wine, or whatever it is. So it's additive. We want to add something in order to move from the one to the other. But that's not the Buddha's teaching. He doesn't tell us to go and drink more or go on a cruise. He says, don't do this. Let go of that. Can't you see that this is fake? It's not you. It's all about letting go. It's all about purification, purifying. I know it sounds a bit Victorian, but just go with it. Purifying the mind, clearing the mind of all the thoughts, feelings, and so on it has, which it may see as solutions, but which in fact are just adding more junk to the junk we already have. So look, it's the whole of the Buddhist teaching. Dissatisfied. Purify ourselves to get rid of the junk that's causing the dissatisfaction, and then we will find peace. But being what we are, we find it very difficult to let go of stuff. We are completely convinced that if only I had something else, a better car, a better house, I don't know, a better spouse, a better partner, better friends, better colleagues, better work. So if I had something else, the dissatisfaction would stop. Well, it may for a little while, and then the problems start again. So let's go back to the machete. We've got to use them. We know where the machete is. We know how to use it in order to clear a way through the jungle. And when you look at it this way, and you realize that what I've just told you is the Buddhist, that is what the Buddhist teaching is, it all looks so simple. So when we talk about mindfulness, for example, it doesn't stand by itself. It's part of a program of getting from dissatisfaction to peace. And the same goes for what he says about worry. Worry is one of the nasty perennial things that you find in the jungle that will strangle you if it can, and that we need to let go of. The Buddha says somewhere that worry is one of the things that really holds us back. It's one of those jungle intertwining, strangulating things that creeps on other trees, parasitic or whatever. So we need to ask ourselves, what are the tools that the Buddha is offering us in order to move from the dissatisfaction to the peace? Now, we can look at that in a very complicated way, and I have done so myself sometimes, and thought, well, this is all right, but you've actually probably made it more complicated. So, worry. Let's come to worry. You'll remember that now that we understand that it's all about creeping through a jungle of our own making, we can ask ourselves all sorts of interesting questions. What hindrances are there to my clearing out the junk in my mind? Well, the Buddha has a teaching, or it's a doctrine actually, probably never taught that way, of the 5 hindrances. What are the 5 hindrances? Desire, ill will, laziness, worry, and doubt. Notice worry. Number 4, worry. That's what we're going to talk about today. These are the things that the jungle creepers that want to strangle us. Okay. It's interesting, by the way, not getting too academic, that the word worry comes from an ancient medieval word, wurgan, meant to strangle. That was the meaning of wurgan. And just think of worry is like a form of mental strangulation. So how can we, let's just first of all just think about what we mean by worry, which is rather a vague term in some ways. Well, first of all, it's experienced as a persistent mental state. It's pernicious. When we talk about pernicious plants in the garden, they keep on popping up. You try to cut them out, and they're back again, and they spread quickly and strangle the plants. That is what worry is. But we need to get to know this worry and know how to handle it, and then at least you will have ameliorated the worry, if not having completely got rid of it. At least a lot of the time. We're not trying to be perfect here. We're trying to be better in terms of our own happiness. Okay, so persistent. It's a persistent mental state. It's pernicious. They're problem-solving thoughts. We cast something into a problem. We think, this is a problem. How am I going to resolve it? Do you notice that we've already made a step? What is a problem? Where does a problem come from? A problem is something I've just invented. I've cast it into the form of a problem. Now, a problem is something that needs a solution. So now my mind starts working away, burrowing away as hard as it can on what the solution is. And just jumps from one solution to another, finding fault with each one of them. Sometimes are usually regarded as some sort, do we worry about something as a kind of a threat, something in the future that may come, and therefore I have to do something. So it's centered upon something or someone perceived as a personal threat. Threat to what? Threat to one's identity, threat to one's reputation, threat to one's livelihood, threat to one's property, threat to one's enjoyment. That is, it's fear. Now you could go through the whole of life seeing things in this way. So the whole of life is a battleground, trying to find the right things to put on the path that'll somehow make it easier. Maybe if I put a lot of deck chairs along the way, I can take a lot of rests. Doesn't really work for very long. That's why I've got to put down to so many deck chairs. It's not about adding anything. It's not additive. It's removal. It's removal time. It's time to get rid of all the junk. At least as much of it as one can. At least understand it. At least soften it. These are things we can do. They are doable. If you think of it as some magic wand, then it's not, that won't help you. Just start, and you will see little gains, little understandings come along, and they will pile up until you have a clear path, and peace starts coming into your mind. And if there's one thing that the world needs at the moment, it's peace. If only we were not grabbing it so much, squabbling with each other over land and resources and so on. It's all, I, me, mine. It's all, I want more of it. And if I have more, I'll be happier. It's wrong. It's hard to believe, but it is wrong. And we can be wrong for many, many millennia. And of course, there are always wise people who tell us, no, that's not right. But we don't really listen to them very well. Or we do for a while and then we forget that. We're too busy being strangled. So while you worry, life is going on. Life is letting things be as they are, except, within reason. That life in a sense is unpredictable. Well, not in a sense, it is unpredictable. Who would have thought a year ago that we would be in the middle of a pandemic? Nobody guessed that. What else is there? I was talking to some relatives in the Caribbean yesterday. St. Vincent, small island near Barbados, has just about exploded, the whole island. And they sent us some photographs at 3 o'clock in the afternoon in which everything was in complete darkness because they were covered by the ash from the earthquakes. They didn't expect that. The day before, they would have laughed if you said that was going to happen. Well, there it is. We need a better understanding of where we stand in relation to life. Life is going its own way, and if you go with it, you'll find lots of wonderful things. If you fight it or think you can improve on it, that's a little bit doubtful, that. Let's think about it. So, okay. What are the basic characteristics of worry? What are we talking about? Well, I've put down 4 things here. First of all, worry, when we're talking about worry in particular, we're talking about the ability that the mind has to guess what's going to happen next. And then think that's not very good. I don't want that to happen. What can I do? Okay, so it's, if you can invent a word, it's living an action or an event before it's happened. That's wonderful, isn't it? We could call this pre-experience, that we're trying to guess what the experience will turn into. And very often it just doesn't go that way. It goes some other way that you perhaps didn't imagine. So we have two kinds of experience developing in our own minds in which we attach to and which causes the pain. There's re-experience and there's pre-experience. Re-experience is when I look to the past and think, oh, I wish I hadn't done that. It's regret. That's re-experience. So I'm having the experience that I had, but having it again, this time in my head. And that can be as painful as it was at the time. Then there's pre-experience, which is, this is worry. Pre-experience is when I'm trying to guess about what is going to happen. And that this is worry. We pre-live a pain. We think to ourselves, oh my gosh, if that happens, that's going to be horrible, and I'm going to be in pain, and how will I get out of it, and what are other people going to think, blah, 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 blah. Meanwhile, you're lying in bed there in the darkness, worrying and very unhappy and not sleeping. It's all in your head. Who's doing the worrying? What is the worry? Where is it? It's a mental state. One can learn to understand that mental state and ease it up. Maybe not let go of it entirely, but at least ease it up. So first of all, we know that about worry now. It's a painful pre-experience. It's important to see that. It's something that hasn't happened. When we're talking about things that have happened, that's post-experience or re-experience. That's regret. Regret is another problem we can discuss. But you see, they complement each other. When we're not feeling regret, we're feeling worry. Okay, secondly, if I start noticing that I am worrying and I think how bloody miserable this is, why can't I stop? Then you start thinking, what's the matter with me? Am I normal? Why me? Now, of course, what you've done is increase the pain of the suffering. But now you've created a second layer. The layer that says, yes, I am worrying, and isn't that bloody stupid of me? Why don't I stop it? What is the matter with me? Now you're judging yourself. So we need to think about how to let go of that judgment. You don't have to think, am I normal? What is wrong with me? Whether people feel like this, why me? If you think about the pre-experience part of it, the remedy surely is being in the present. It's the mindfulness, it's trying to stay in the present. And the best way to anchor that quickly is by pay attention to your breathing in a gentle, friendly way and try to keep your mind there. But we'll come back to that next week. We'll talk about remedies next week. What about when you start judging yourself? What is the matter with me? Why am I so pathetic or whatever? What's the remedy there? Well, first of all, notice that it is a judgment and that is making things worse, not better. Got to acknowledge that. Why am I doing this to myself? Why am I judging myself? Why don't I just let that go? It doesn't have any existence except the existence I'm giving it. So let go of judgment, preventing it spiraling out of control. Because once I start going down that road of judging myself, then it will start to spiral out of control. Thirdly, worry, the third characteristic of worry. Worry is obsessive and it is exclusive, as I said earlier. And that's why we compare it with strangulation. You can't breathe. The worse it gets. Worry entails ignoring all revitalizing factors. In some ways, it may be connected with what we call OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. It may or may not, but we don't need to get medical about it. It's quite easy to understand what's happening here. My mind is attaching to fearsome things, these things that happened in the past, things that may or may not be coming up in the future, and how I'm responsible. So what I need to look at is the response to those objects, not to the objects themselves. I may worry about losing my job, but the problem is, how am I responding to the thought of losing my job? The problem is not, I don't know, it sounds strange, it's not really loss of the job. I can get very glued to that, not noticing that the pain is actually self-generated. I need to pay attention to the response rather than the object that is apparently bringing about the response. This also is equanimity, keeping balance. Right, so what is the remedy here? Remedy to the kind of obsessiveness and exclusiveness of worry. Because worry, it's an interesting thing about worry when you notice it is that it is cutting out everything else. The mind is focused harshly, like a bright floodlight on this one issue, and it's stuck to it, and it's hurting. So it's obsessive, it's exclusive. So what is the solution going to be? Well, again, we'll come back to it next week, but in short, you could focus on something unconnected, something that doesn't have any connection with this thing, with something else, something pleasant, something peaceful. Try to shift the mind off it. But we'll come back to these remedies next week because that's going to take too much time. So if you're interested in what we're talking about today, come back next Sunday and we'll go through all the possible ways of easing this worrisome state. Fourthly, fourth characteristic, persistence. Worrying cannot usually be stopped. We try to stop it. And that's when we get angry with ourselves. Sitting there, getting angry with yourself, thinking, why am I worrying about this? Why don't I just stop that? Why don't I stop it? You get, it's ridiculous when you think about it. You've already generated worry, and now you're generating anger about the worry. So the anger and the worry now work together, the two terrible twins. And where is this all going on? Is it on the carpet? Is it on the roof? Is it in the shed at the bottom of the garden? No, it's you. It's your mind. So we need to kind of distance ourselves within so that we're looking at the response, not the object, at the apparent object of the response. We're looking at the response and letting go of the response, managing the response, finding how it works. Okay, so worrying cannot be resolved by getting angry with it. It's not something that there is a way of sort of stopping it, like stopping in a sense of doing something, punching it on the nose or whatever. That's not going to work. Worrying can only be released. It cannot be stopped, but it can be released. But you've got to know how to release it, and you've got to acknowledge what the worrying is like. So, you see what we're doing here? This is all the purification of the mind, to use a rather Victorian phrase. It's a purification of the mind. To bring the mind to more wisdom about what's going on there, where the pain is coming from. It's about compassion. You don't have to suffer like this, so you're compassionate for yourself, but compassion for the worrying of other people. And above all, it's peace. There's nothing that can beat peace. It's so peaceful. Peace is peaceful. We need to get rid of all the junk that's in the way, but we don't need to add anything. Okay, so persistence can't be stopped, but it can be released. When you think about it, worry is often a refusal to accept a degree of uncertainty. We want to bring everything into my clutch as certain. This is certainly going to happen. This will certainly happen if I do this. Is certainty. So it's a form of wanting to control things. Some people, suffer from this very badly. They want to control everything. It can't be done. We gave the example already of pandemics, of earthquakes. these huge things that we didn't see the day before. So how are we going to see the little things? It doesn't mean giving up. You're not giving up your wisdom, your intelligence, but you've got to make the shift from the objects out there which seem to be causing the problem and your responses to it. So we can talk about it next week, but once we've seen that the mind is going in the direction of demanding certainty, putting things into dilemma forms, that is, the worry is caused by a dilemma. Where is that dilemma? Is it on a book on a shelf? No, it's in your mind. So what is the dilemma exactly? Then we can think about, now we know what it is. When we didn't know what it was, we didn't know how to deal with it. Now we know what it is, we know how to deal with it. So just a quick remedy for next week. Reveal the dilemma, first of all. Recognize it, the so-called dilemma. Write it down. If you're lying there, in the darkness, unable to sleep because of worry, get up, put the light on, write down in words on a piece of paper what this worry is in the terms that we've just talked about, and then shift from worry to plan, because worry is about the future basically. Now, planning is okay, because planning is based on wisdom. We know it's provisional. We know it may not work out, and that's okay. If it's changing into something else, then we'll go with that flow. We won't stubbornly stick to a plan that is useless. But the simple way of looking at it is moving from a worry, which is painful, to a plan, which is not necessarily useful. The plan is, I know it's provisional, I know it's a product of my mind, but it'll help me to just wisely guide things over the next few days or whatever. It's open to change and recognizes impermanence. So, worry, wurgen, that is strangulation. We don't want it. But who is strangling whom? Is life strangling you, or are you strangling life? Let life be. We don't know where it's going. But we do know about the damage we are doing to it, trying to make it better than it is. Now, this is quite a big topic, and it's an important topic. And it's very important for you to see that the Buddha's path is not we use the word remedies already, but it's not a set of things that I have to do, which may be rather complicated. It's really about not doing certain things or letting go of certain things. It's about purifying the water, if you like, is before you. It's all muddy and full of crap. Right, now we're going to purify it so that we can see through the water, we can drink the water, and it will sustain us. Right, I'm going to stop there and leave it with you. Thank you.
New Buddha Way lets go of East and West and starts afresh in the life we have now. For more information, visit www.newbuddhaway.org.